Welcome, everyone. Today is meeting number 5,341 of the Rotary Club of San Jose. Would you all please bring your guests up and introduce them at the microphone? Starting with Ron Drake. How you doing, Ron?
Hello, Mr. President. Nice to see you. I'm very pleased to have with me Rachel Barclay. Rachel is the new general manager at the Silicon Valley Capital Club. She just moved from Philly, where she was the GM at the Pyramid Club. Her partner and young daughter will be following early May. And she's a member of the Philadelphia Rotary Club. So she's familiar with what we do, and we're really happy to have her here as our guest.
Welcome, Rachel. Rob.
Good morning, Rob Rennie. I'm a visiting past president from the Los Gatos Morning Rotary. I'm currently the mayor of Los Gatos and running for State Assembly District 28.
Welcome, Mr. Mayor. Hi, Hung.
I'm Hung Wei, visitor chairman from the Rotary Club of Cupertino. I'm currently Lieutenant Governor for DG Richard Flanders, and I will be District Governor 23 in July, so I'm District Governor nominee.
Welcome. Thanks for coming. Hi, Tu.
Hi, President Steve. Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to introduce my guest today, Miss Annie Lay. She's the eldest daughter of the Lee Sandwiches family, if you have heard of Lee Sandwiches. So Lee Sandwiches is a successful business. They have like more than a dozen stores in the Northern California and several stores in Southern California. Annie herself is an accountant. She owns a Lee accounting and tax service. So she just finished her tax season just now. And she managed 3 Lee Sandwiches stores in San Jose and Cupertino. She's also a philanthropist who is a regular donor of my nonprofit organization. So I hope she will become a great friend of Rotary Club and perhaps a member of this club soon. Thank you.
Welcome, Annie. Welcome. Annie, and some of you probably know, but a new Lee Sandwiches is going into the Graduate, the new high-rise residential problem developed by Swenson on 3rd and San Carlos. So let's all go buy lots of sandwiches. Thanks, Annie. Hi, Sue.
Good afternoon, President Steve. My guest today is Mai Saito, and she's from Japan, living at the International House at the San Jose State University, and is majoring in international relations. Mai?
Welcome. God, is that who I think it is? Holy cow.
President Steve, how are you? It's good to see you.
Chuck
again.
Tennis Getter, everyone. Can you believe it?
Well, it was just noted by someone when I walked in that I'm senior active. I didn't know that. So, it's good to be here. I'm very pleased to introduce my daughter, Megan Tennis Getter, who has just become the chief executive officer of our construction company, taking my position. And she's going to do one heck of a better job than I ever did. So,
Wonderful.
Meet Megan.
Welcome, Megan. Thanks, Chuck.
Hi, President Steve. I'm here to introduce my guest, my husband, Jim Chapman, of 35 years, and a lawyer in the area who's been practicing corporate law with a specialty in M&A and VC work and cross-border work.
Welcome, Jim. Tom Bondi.
Hey, President Steve. So I'm going to try not to screw this up, so I wrote it. My guest today in person is Dennis Lamon, and Dennis is the Senior Assistant Dean and Executive Director of the Silicon Valley Executive Center at Levy School of Business at Santa Clara University, and one of the founders of the program that Barry Williams participates a great deal at the school over there. So I'm happy to have him as our guest.
Was that his job title, or was that a speech, Tom?
That was, no, Steve, just move on.
Thanks, Dennis. Enjoy the program today. Hi, Deanna.
President Steve. I happen to have my sister here. She happened to get both the brains and the looks of the family. I still got it. She's Angel Ellenberger.
Welcome, Angel. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any guests today? Well, we've got a bunch of guests. So you all know, and I know I'm screwing up the camera back there, John During, so apologies. John Ball, Christine Davis, and I are the board, along with past President Fernando Zazueta of Urban Confluence Silicon Valley, AKA San Jose Light Tower Corporation, or vice versa. We've been working on this project for about 5 years, John and I and Christine, and this is a really special day in the history of our project. Fair Jerez, I'll introduce Fair in a moment, is here from Australia. We had a competition a couple of years ago. We got about 1,000 submittals from 72 countries on 6 continents. And Fair's vision, it's called Breeze of Innovation, won handily. So we're in the process now of moving that forward. So we've got about a dozen guests today. So I'll start out. Hi, John Ball. Yeah. So my partner in crime, John Ball, and my other partner, Sean O'Kane. This is Ron Komensik, is the structural engineer on the project. Ron is from Seattle. Arturo Riera is from San Francisco and is part of the Park Lab team. Hold your applause till the end, there's too many of them. David Manzo is a generous friend from San Jose who's filming what we're doing, and I'm gonna have him come and do a program one of these days about his project. Seth Hamalian is the principal at Park Lab. Park Lab is a consultant doing work for us in the program. Luke Stewart also is with Park Lab, as is Kathy Hickey and Crystal Watts. This is Eddie Hall from MBH Architects, along with Andres Grecki. Andres is the principal. Eddie is the architect assigned to our project. And then my real partner in crime, Christine Davis. Did I miss anyone, team? Oh, and Fair Jerez. Fair, stand up for a moment. So Fair was the winner of our competition. He's an architect and designer who created this fabulous vision of Breeze of Innovation. He lives in Perth, Australia, and in Madrid. He's a fabulous partner. And so today is this really special day because of Zoom and COVID. Most of us have never met before. So we've been working together for a couple of years without ever meeting in person. And so Fair, who's 15 hours ahead in Perth, is still dealing with jet lag after about 5 days. But that's our team. Please give them a round of applause. Is Karen Sununu-Tauri here? Hi, Karen. So you all know I asked you a month or so ago about your Rotary moment, the time when you went from rather just being a member of Rotary to really being a Rotarian. And I asked for volunteers, and I'm still looking for volunteers. And my friend Karen volunteered to tell her story, so here it is.
Hi. Well, my Rotary moment, and forgive me because I have told this story to some of you before, so I'm old, you can just hear me tell the story again and pretend like you didn't hear it. But mine was really what I call when I realized we had Rotary karma. So, why isn't that showing, I wonder? So, well, Rotary karma is what was my Rotary moment, and we don't have this up here. This is bad karma. Okay, there it is. So it's really a story about 3 Alexanders and a little bit about UCSF. And it takes a few years, so I will give you the Reader's Digest version. In the year 2000, my daughter gave birth to these cute twins here on the end. And the boy, our first Alexander that I'm going to talk about, was born with an unusual heart defect called truncus arteriosus. So he was born at Children's Hospital in San Francisco and rushed to UCSF and had open heart surgery when he was 3 days old. And that'll bring me to Mohan Reddy, who is the second man here. And he is he's a doctor who was born, raised, and educated in India, and one of the few doctors in the United States at that time that worked on truncus babies. And he performed 2 surgeries on Alexander #1, my grandson, before he was 3. So now let's move to 2003 to San Jose Rotary Club luncheon, much like this one. And I had the privilege of sitting next to Alexander II, which would be Sandy Ellenberg there. And he's the third one over there. Sandy Ellenberg was a plastic surgeon, a very active Rotarian, a very generous man. And I happened to tell him about Dr. Reddy and the successful surgeries he had performed on my grandson. And I said, I just wish there were a way I could repay this doctor from India. And he goes, oh, well, we're having a Rotoplast trip to India. You should volunteer. Well, I did. This is where Sandy Ellenberg talked me into going. I'll show you a picture of it here. That was the hospital. And it was the first of 5 Rotoplast trips I took, but it was a fabulous trip. And I always remembered one day in particular, this was in January of 2004, I was in the recovery room with a group of children, and there was no translator in the room. It was quiet. The children were recovering. They were quiet. And in walked a nurse. You can see a little picture of her there. I call her Angel. And Angel walked in. She was quiet. She was a young nurse from Santa Barbara. And she sat down, and the children were looking at her, and she took her leg off. And I mean, it was like magic. I didn't know she had only one leg, and she was showing her artificial leg to the kids, and they were just so happy and amused, and it perked everyone up, and it was hot and not that clean, and it was just a magical moment. And it was just fun, and I never saw her do it again, but she knew how to connect with the kids. So now, let me move ahead to 2009, 2010. My son, on the very end there, he's the third Alexander we're going to talk about. Well, he had thyroid cancer, and it had spread, and he had to have a couple of surgeries. And where do I end up again with him? UCSF. So his second surgery wasn't over till 11 at night, and the hospital was chaos. I mean, I know the doctors are fabulous, but after that, once they wheeled him out of the recovery room, it was, they didn't really have a room for him. He was in a bed next to the nurse's station. It was really awful. And who walks by? But the angel that I had met in India. I said, weren't you on a Rotoplast trip in India, 6 years ago? She goes, yeah. So she was there only for the weekend, visiting her father. She had a schedule where she worked at UCSF. So she took care of my son. She found a room for him, and that was the Rotary Karma moment for me. It was absolutely magical that I had, this doctor from India helped my child. I helped someone in India, and then it came back to my son. So that's my Rotary moment. And I'll just give you a follow-up. Here's my grandson on the left. He's doing great. He's in college at Georgia State. Sandy Ellenberg has left a fabulous legacy, not only to our club, but the community, for his generosity, his intelligence, and by the way, he was educated at UCSF. And then there's my son, who's just become a Rotarian in Santa Monica. So thank you very much.
Next up, Vince Sanzeri is going to bring us up to speed on the next big project.
Thank you, Steve. Chris Berman, ESPN. This is going to be the quick update on the next big project. Fantastic story on the Karma. So as you know, the Rotary Next Big Project, we transitioned from our current project we were on to now a Rotary mobile clinic. And what does that look like? This is actually the mobile clinic for Rotacare for the Concord Club. And we're going to look at establishing something similar here in the South Bay. In establishing that, we're going to have multiple partners. This is currently in the investigative stage. We would have a managing partner, which would be Catholic Charities. I'll explain their role briefly. We have healthcare providers, Rotacare moving from brick and mortar to potentially a mobile offering. the Order of Malta, and we're also looking for a third organization and nonprofit to provide healthcare services. Our committee essentially has created subcommittees, if you will, to try and move forward. A research subcommittee that's looking at the clinic itself. What would the cost be to create such a vehicle, to design it, to build it, to operate it, to maintain it, to store it, all those aspects of it. Who else are currently operating in the field, some kind of mobile clinic. Understanding the need in the community in terms of the insured, uninsured. The operations subcommittee is looking at what other organizations might be out there to be a third healthcare provider. Who could they serve? Geographically, where might they be serving them? What needs might they have for the vehicle? And then our third subcommittee on the management side is where we're really working closely with Catholic Charities, who will be in a leadership role in organizing this and managing the different healthcare providers and pulling all this together. It's really a terrific project. For those of you that are in the room that are part of the 14 members of the Next Big Project Committee, would you just raise your hand? These people have been working hard for 2.5 years. We don't have an urban confluence major thing that we're throwing up. It's going to be a mobile vehicle, but it'll be very exciting. Just to kind of leave you with where we ended on the previous project, although we had to exit that project, there was actually a dog run that we were trying to bring this together and have an impact on it. And the combination of a grant from our foundation of $10,000, help from Jay Albanese, the Pause to Consider Committee, Terry Chapman, Patrick Frawley from our committee. This is what it looks like today. So a little gift to the organization at Home First. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vince, for the great work. Next up, Brenda Sweeney and Hung Wei are going to talk about the district conference.
Hi again, everybody. I think you remember me from last week. I guess one of the things I wanted to do is go beyond the district conference and kind of give you guys a sense of what actually participating in the district does for you, not just once a year, but throughout the year. For those of you that know me, I actually became a district treasurer while I was still a Red Badger. And then I held that position for 2 years. And I continued to be involved in the district. I'm the chair of the wheelchair project for the district, as well as doing some other things. Oh, thank you. So I continue to do that. But I mean, really the thing about the district, what it does for you is, for whatever reason you joined Rotary San Jose, whether it's to help the community, whether it's to help the world, whether it's to build leadership or to just meet new people, you basically can exponentially increase that by just participating in the district. So I really encourage you guys to explore it just a little bit. There's different events you can go to, and you can just see what it's like. But that's really what it does for you personally. It basically enables you to multiply that effect. And for that, I wanted to bring Hung. She actually is our district governor nominee. And she's been involved with Rotary and the district for many years. And I wanted her to share some of her thoughts and experiences as well, because she's been involved longer.
Thank you, Brenda. So I'm Hung Wei, member of the Rotary Club of Cupertino. And what is district? District 5170 has 62 clubs, all the way from Oakland to Santa Cruz, and then from Palo Alto to Livermore. So that 62 clubs will make you connections, opens up opportunities, and really make you feel that you're part of something bigger than you are. So why join the district? I have a challenge for the Rotary Club of San Jose. District level, you get to see more people, you make connections, you open up opportunities. We also hear about Karen's personal common story. That's her Rotary story. My Rotary story is join the leadership team on district level, push me to be a leader. I was challenged to be club president, I was challenged to be district assistant governor, I was challenged to be membership chair, and then I challenged myself to apply for district governorship. So that part of what is Rotary to you. Rotary connects work, makes changes, but also changes yourself. So where do you start? The district conference is a place where you can really make connections, not just because they are House of Friendship, you can see other clubs' projects. There are 11 forums, which you can learn and have fun, And also there are hospitality suites at 9:30 to 11:30 in my suite and in Lisa Lawrence suites for free fun fellowship. So really, the district level, my challenge to the Rotary Club of San Jose is, when are you going to bring the district governor flag into your club? So if you have a district governor coming up, that year you're going to have a district flag right here saying that you are the district governor's club. So my challenge to your club is, let's make that happen.
Thank you, Brenda and Hung. Well, Carl Salas is coming up. Carl's going to talk about the large club conference that we will be hosting. That will happen about once every 100 years. And it's happening this year. But I do want to welcome the 38 people who are on Zoom today. So, hi, Zoom people. Carl Salas.
Hey, Steve. Steve told me to cut it to a minute. Can you get my slide up there, the next one? So we have something that only happens once in a century happening on September 18th, 19th, and 20th, sponsored by our club in downtown San Jose, and it is the large club conference. You gonna flip that, or am I flipping that? There we go. Anyways, the large club conference, and what happens is, none of you know this unless you've been president, but the president-elect and the executive director from the 70 largest clubs in the country meet once a year before the president-elect becomes president. And so there are 70 clubs with 200 or more members, and once a year, one club sponsors it. Cindy Faulkner and I, 5 years ago, were asked to co-chair the committee, and it was 5 years in the future, so we said, sure, no problem. It's horrible, it's just a lot of work. But it's gonna be a great event, and what I wanna show you, I only have a second, but what I wanna show you is, anyway, so there are gonna be 70 president-elects here from 36 states, 70 different Rotary clubs. We just signed, Raquel, I'm glad to meet you. We just signed with the Capitol Club to open, the opening night's gonna be at the Capitol Club. Christine Davis, you and John are gonna have we're gonna have a great dinner at your place. It's gonna be beautiful. And it's very, you know, San Jose is big city, small town. So it's gonna be really, we're setting it up for that. So this is just a shot across your bow. We'll be calling some of you for a little bit of help here and there, because we wanna make all these 140 Rotarians from the largest clubs in the country feel really at home in San Jose. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Carl and Cindy. Matt Bell, you want to come on up? Matt Bell. Matt's going to talk to us about our membership drive.
Fast as I can. Hello, everybody. I'm here to do a regular update on how new membership development is going for the year. So want to just first start with some stats. Did I go the wrong way? There we go. As you can see, we started off the year with 431 members, putting us as, I think we're 8th or 9th largest in the world or in the US, and that goes for both because all the largest clubs are in the US. But as of April, our last board meeting, 422 members. So as you can see, we've had some attrition, but we've added 24 new members already this year. So really well done, particularly in in this emerging from the pandemic, which is not easy to attract new people to clubs where they want to gather in a room like this. So getting easier and easier, and hopefully that keeps going in the same direction. But we still have a little bit of our work cut out for us for the next couple of months if we really want to achieve our goal and get to that break even, if not even exceed it, and grow the club during this time, which would be amazing. So wanted to also just recognize all the new members that have joined thus far. So just quickly, Mike Anning, Alfredo Bakari, Stephanie Volansky-Fair, who I just said hello to, Elizabeth Chan Hale, Leslie Corsilia, Robert Davis, Octavia Derby, Desiree Escobar, Ashley Hopkins Pass, Chappie Jones, Ravinder Lal, Pat Lucas. I'm gonna go with Baltej Mann, Sylvia Mann, who is one who I sponsored, Barbara Marshman, Mark McKenna, Chris Metzger, Maggie Padavani, Steve Perez, Emily Robin, Matt Robin, Tricia Valencia Creason, Martha Wapensky, and Bernadette White. How about a hand for all those new members so far this year? I forgot I was actually going to have you come up on the stage. Who, of all those new members, who's here? Could you stand up at least so we can see who you are and recognize you. Thank you. Thank you and welcome to the club. We also wanted to, of course, without the sponsors of these new members, we would not have them or would have far fewer. So really want to just take a moment here to recognize these. Many of these folks are the ones who you might recall earlier in the year that we asked people to stand up for Rotary and started that campaign and offered everyone. There were about 60 or 70 initial people, and more have come along during the year. But they have these wristbands, and they've worked hard to attract these 24 new members. So I'd actually like to, for those who are here, I'd actually like you to please come up to the stage right now. We want you to actually turn in your wristband as a sign of you completing this task. And if you wouldn't mind also just coming up to the podium here, saying your name and let everyone know that you stood up for Rotary.
Joe Colici, I stood up for Rotary. Steve Ellenberg, standing up for Rotary.
Heather Lerner, I stood up for Rotary.
Tim Gill, I stood up for Rotary.
Mauricio Córdoba, stand up for Rotary.
Anna Persai, stood up for Rotary.
Ed Correa, I stood up for Rotary.
Pam Foley, I'll always stand up for Rotary.
Arthur Weisbrod, I'm with Pam, always for Rotary.
Elizabeth Monley, I stood up for Rotary.
Tom Bondi, stood up for Rotary.
Catherine Tompkison, I stood up for Rotary.
So thank you, everybody. I just really want to give all the recognition to everyone who works hard. As we know, it's not, always easy to approach someone. But, I think as all of our new members will attest, a lot of times we ask, what took you so long? Why did you join these? No one ever asked me. So remember that people are interested in what you're passionate about, and please take the time to reach out and bring more people into the club. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt, and thank all of you for that good work bringing in these wonderful new members. Tom Bondi is going to introduce today's speaker, so please welcome Tom to the stage.
All right, everybody. I have it in writing here, so I try not to screw it up too much. Barry wasn't feeling too well this morning, so he's going to be virtual on this, but at least he's able to join us. Barry, you're there, I hope?
I am here.
All right, excellent. I'm very pleased that Suzanne St. John Crane asked me to step in for her for this intro. She couldn't be here. I've come to know Barry quite well through my own participation as a mentor in the Santa Clara University's Executive Leaders Black Corporate Board Readiness Program. The program was launched in 2021 by Dennis Landman, who's sitting right over here, and Thane Kreiner, together with a guiding hand from Barry Williams himself, on the foundation of their existing program, the Santa Clara University Women's Corporate Board Readiness Program. These are truly national programs provided by Santa Clara that connects incredibly talented participants from business that help provide them insights into transferring their amazing skills into responsible board members for nonprofits and for-profit companies. So now I'm going to read what Suzanne St. John Crane asked me to read for her. Barry Lawson Williams is a lawyer, award-winning American Leadership Fellow, Senior Fellow, entrepreneur, general partner, management consultant, seasoned corporate board member, and philanthropist. In July of 2020, CNN featured an article on Barry that begins with, Barry Lawson Williams has a message for companies. Find new Black candidates to serve on your board. Barry is passionate about making room for the next generation of Black corporate board members. He currently serves as a program advisor for Santa Clara Black Corporate Board Readiness Program. In January 2020, he retired from his last for-profit board seat and released a time capsule project compiling the experiences of 50 Black board directors, and the results were telling. Incidentally, Barry has been nominated by the ALF Senior Fellow Network to receive this year's ALF Exemplary Leadership Award, called the John W. Gardner Award, named after the former Secretary of Health, Education, and Welfare, that event will be on the 28th of this month. Here to share his wisdom and experience with us, I'm very proud to introduce mine and Suzanne's friend, Barry Lawson Williams. Take it away, Barry.
Good afternoon. I hope you can hear me okay. I take it then that you can.
Great.
I take it you can hear me. I'm very sorry that I couldn't be there today. We spent 2 weeks in London, and I survived that trip. We came home, but then I got a little sick, not COVID or anything, just some digestive issues, and therefore I cannot be there with you today. It's really a shame that I cannot be there, because unbeknownst to me, I didn't know that Chuck Tennisgetter was going to be there. And Chuck may not want to admit this, but I knew Chuck Tennisgetter. We worked together. We shared an office in 1973. So hello, Chuck. I haven't seen you in years, and I'm sorry I missed the opportunity to say hello. I'm also disappointed not to come over. I live in Menlo Park to San Jose, because I love coming to San Jose. Every time I come, there's a new building. Every time I come, a street has been renamed. I get lost every time, but I love San Jose. Well, Tom and Suzanne said no canned speeches, so I'm not going to have any slides. I do wish that I had my wife with me, Lalita Tatamy. She's a two-time New York Times award-winning author, and she usually gives me advice on these talks, and that advice is try to be brief, please. Finally, everybody gave me advice about my talk, that they're very established rules of Rotary, and that is that you have a 4 p.m. hard stop, and I can talk to 4 p.m. Or maybe I'll get out a little sooner. I want to say that what I'm going to talk about today is not a pitch in any sense to Rotary. The reason I'm sharing what I'm doing and asking for your help is not to advertise my efforts, but I know Rotary people have passion. I know Rotary people know how to get things done. And so I need help in trying to understand how best to get things done. Let me go back and say, I've always been about diversity. I am more so about diversity now, but I've always been about diversity. And let me just quickly tell you why I am so passionate about all forms of diversity, ethnic, racial, what have you. I think it's been proven by academic studies that diversity leads to better decision making. And there's a role for racial diversity in that. Diversity is better decision making, better performance. I think the second is, if you have diverse people on your committees, boards, what have you, you'll get better market insights and be able to address those markets more effectively. And my third reason I actually got from my children. And they say diversity will help in the talent acquisition war that's going on, the war for talent. And that is what they're saying. It's not only diversity will attract minority candidates, but having a diverse organization is what non-minority candidates equally are looking for. So those are the three principal reasons I've always been for diversity. And now I think there's a more compelling reason for diversity. And that is we're coming out of the pandemic. Things won't be the same. We'll have to come up with new ways of doing things, new approaches, new strategies. For example, I've been on the board and been involved with Sutter hospitals for years. And we had a plan pre-pandemic to start doing video visits, and we had a 5-year plan. Well, 2 months into the pandemic, we exceeded our 5-year trajectory. And now we're trying to figure out which video visits we should keep, which should we go back to traditional visits, a whole new model of seeing patients. And it's not just seeing patients, because if you have all these video visits, maybe you don't need to invest so much in facilities. Maybe you can have people working at home more, as we found out, they can be very effective. So maybe you don't need all that real estate. So the bottom line I have today is diversity is not simply some social response to social issues. Diversity is a business imperative, because we're going to have to get the best thinking on these new post-pandemic business models, and diversity, people with diverse experiences, backgrounds, can help us come up with these new models. So let me tell you my background, which has been said. I want to go back about 5 or 6 years when I was almost fully retired from my own investment business. And I had a lot of energy. And I had a desire to do something about my main activity at that time. My main activity after retiring from my business, my own business, was serving on corporate boards and not-for-profit boards. And I have served on 16 public and other company boards, including such local companies in this area as PG&E, before the fires, Kaiser, Simpson Strong Tie, American President Lines, and LucasArts. 5 or 6 years ago, when I was retiring, I decided I wanted to focus on increasing racial diversity on corporate boards. I was still serving on 5 corporate boards. And I have to tell you, I was unsure if I would be replaced on those boards by another African American. I tried that fight in all 5 boards with equal effort. And I have to tell you, I was concerned because I only was successful in 2 of those 5 cases. And the reason I was successful in 2 of those 5 cases is that I had total buy-in from the CEO. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen. The other thing at this time, I came across an important study on board composition. That study said, focused on the Fortune 100 companies in the United States. And it said that 75% of those companies had a Black director. What? You know, that sounds good. 25 didn't. But with my knowledge of what was going on in the Bay Area, I knew the Bay Area lagged in those areas. And I'll tell you the results in 1 second. So that's when I decided to focus on projects promoting diversity on corporate boards. I knew the project would be overwhelming in scope because I talked to you about the Fortune 100, where 75% had a Black director. But there's the Fortune 500, NASDAQ, the Russell 2000, and then you go to the private backed companies that are backed by venture capital and private equity, All those significantly lag the percentages achieved in the Fortune 100. I also knew there were significant impediments to getting something done. There were a lot of myths about the lack of supply of Black directors and other minority directors. There was also talk that if you got Black directors, you would have to lower your requirements for skill sets. And then there was the other realistic fact that there were competing needs of other competing needs for just a few board seats. So then the final thing I want to tell you about my setting was, as I said, I was just getting into retirement. I had an office. I had a computer, an iPad. I had a Rolodex and only a part-time administrative assistant. So I had no financial support. I had no administrative support of any significance. I didn't represent any company or organization. So those were the challenges. And that's what I want to explore with you today, how I should continue to address this issue of increasing racial representation on corporate boards. And what I'd like to do is review what I did, highlight what I was not able to do, tell you where I'm now focused. And then I'd love to have your thoughts on how I should proceed, because as I said, I have found Rotarians to be highly passionate and they know how to get things done. The first major thing I did 5 or 6 years ago, after I heard about the study on underrepresentation of Black directors on corporate boards, specifically in the Fortune 100, was to conduct a study of the underrepresentation of racial representation on boards in the Bay Area. What I found is the inverse of the 75%. Only 24% of major Bay Area companies had a Black director. And when you looked at the technology companies, the numbers just dramatically decreased to single digit. There was also a lack of knowledge, I found, in the more than 30 Black directors and CEOs located in the Bay Area, of which I was one. So here we had over 30 Black director CEOs who someone had passed on, had evaluated and judged to be worthy of being on boards outside of the Bay Area, but most were largely not appointed to boards in the Bay Area. With that study, I conducted a roadshow with CEOs, nomination and compensation chairs, headhunters, and influential directors. Then about 3 years ago, pre-pandemic, pre-George Floyd, as Tom Bondi mentioned, I conducted a survey of 50 experienced Black corporate directors regarding their experiences on getting on boards, their experience once on boards, and their effectiveness on those boards, and their perspectives on the outlook for racial representation for the next 5 years. Those 50 experienced Black directors included a diversity by gender, geography, and industry. And those 50 experienced Black directors had served, I believe, on 274 boards. And I similarly widely distributed that report and its 5 major findings. And I will tell you, they are all pre-George Floyd, so you should keep that in mind. But let me tell you what the 5 major findings were. One, that race was important, but it was not the most important factor on getting on boards. Just because you were Black, you weren't automatically going to get on a board. The most important factor of this group, and the most important factor this group believed would be primary in the future, is relationships. And in addition to relationships, skill set and fit. So race was a plus, but you weren't going to cross the finish line until you first passed the criteria of having good relationships, having the required skill sets, and having a good fit. The third major finding of the time capsule project, which I call it, was many of these experienced Black corporate directors wish they had spoken up about diversity sooner, louder, more often. And I talked to them, and the reason they hadn't was they didn't want to be labeled as a single issue director or the diversity director, but they all stepped up as they became more experienced directors. The fourth major finding was Black directors felt they had been largely shut out of boards that related to technology companies, consumer product companies, and PE VC-backed companies. The final one, and I particularly left this for last, I think it was the most important. It was pre-George Floyd. Most of those Black directors were not optimistic about significant increases in racial representation over the coming 5 years. So what happened as a result of that study? I took it on the road. I was asked to speak a lot. I've been asked to consult in identifying Black candidates. I was asked to lead a multi-series by Forbes on diversity. And I actually met 30 different organizations that were working on racial diversity on corporate boards. And I met about 30 Black executives in search, many have not heard of before. So what was I not successful in doing? Believe it or not, and I'm being frank, I could not get published in the Harvard Business Review or a single academic or industry publication. 2, I could not get significant involvement and sustained involvement by business organizations such as the Business Roundtable or the Conference Board. We had introductory conversations. They went off and did their own thing. I tried to do a CEO pledge on diversity, and I couldn't do more. I could not attract more than a handful of CEOs to move forward. And the fourth thing that I regret was I couldn't develop some sort of organization, umbrella organization, to coordinate all these activities of these numerous organizations. So that's what I have been doing. That's what I wasn't able to accomplish. Let me talk about my current focus. I have 3 major focuses. One is my major effort has been leading an effort to identify minority board-ready candidates. And I've identified over 800. So that whole thought of a lack of supply of qualified candidates, I hope we destroyed. I need to do some more work on getting on a platform where people can have access to skill sets and quite easily identify candidates. But already have a list of 800. My list of 800, the way you get on the list is you get nominated by an experienced Black corporate director. So they're probably a lot more capable people, and I keep updating the list. I'm also working on supporting board readiness programs, and I'm happy that my partner, Dennis, is here representing Santa Clara. We were just a thought over a year ago, and now we have 105 graduates. We have several more cohorts coming on this year, and we have a program which trains 25 to 30 aspiring Black candidates at Santa Clara in the business school. And Santa Clara has been a great partner with its commitment to social justice. And the final thing I'm thinking about is I'm thinking about doing another round of interviews of Black board members. And it would have 2 tracks. It's post George Floyd. What I want to do is capture the experiences of some iconic Black board members that I didn't approach last time. And I really regret not approaching 2 of my mentors, Vernon Jordan and General Colin Powell, who recently passed. And besides those experienced Black corporate directors, I really want to capture the experience of these post-George Floyd younger directors who've just gotten on boards and see if they're similar to what we're talking about. Here's where I am. My ongoing work has shown some big obstacles in this whole diversity issue. I truly believe that if we're going to significantly have gains in diversity on corporate boards, public or private, we have to change the whole system, because diversity now is strongly limited by limited board size, composition, and board rotation. And quite quickly, boards are 8 to 10 people, no more. People serve 12 years on average, and a board seat doesn't come up but 1 board seat a year. Similarly, with board composition, boards are 8 to 10 in size on average, and 70% of them are sitting or existing CEOs, COOs, and CFOs. So unless we change that construct, we're not going to get true diversity. Second, we're not going to get diversity and rotation unless we increase board self-evaluations. And the reason I'm for that is I think we need to have board evaluations determine what are the upgraded skill set needs for boards to implement the strategies for the future. And that'll open up seats for diversity because diverse candidates have those skill sets. And what I'm finding is many boards have many good board members. They've done a good job in the prior environment, but they don't have the skill set for the new challenges, for the new environment. We got to give them a pat on the back. We got to give them the golden watch and move on. The other big obstacle I'm seeing goes to this whole relationship question I mentioned. A lot of boards simply don't know and are not familiar with the aspiring minority candidates. And we've got to find a way. I don't know if it's the good old college mixers or what have you. And finally, we've got to build some data platforms because we don't want just lists. We need data platforms outlining skill sets where people could readily access and find candidates. And I said finally, but I meant to also include, we have to develop an umbrella organization to somehow coordinate, at least have a information exchange of these various numerous organizations.
Barry, this is Steve, the president. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Are you almost done? Because I know people are clamoring to ask you questions, and we only have about 4 more minutes.
I have 1 minute more.
Go right ahead. Thanks, Barry.
Because my wife said the most important part of my talk is in conclusion. So right now, I'm still most self-funding my efforts. I do have the support of about 20 other experienced directors. I only have a part-time administrative assistant. So my question to you all is, what do I do? Do I go out fundraising, crowdsourcing? Do I pick just one of those activities? Or do I just focus on Silicon Valley? Thank you all. I must say I was overwhelmed by the Rotary moment. Sorry I talked too long, but I'm passionate about this subject. I thank you for inviting me.
So everyone, it's about 1:12, I think, and 1:11, and we are fastidious about being done on time. Barry, could you stay a few minutes afterwards?
I could.
So what I'm going to suggest that when it gets to be 1:15, if you can please exit quietly. Those of you who'd like to stay in the room for just a few more minutes of Q&A, that's what we're going to do. Let's start with Maggie Padamani.
Yes, hello, and thank you very much for your talk. I really appreciate hearing you. I'd like to recommend Ahmad Thomas of the Silicon Valley Leadership Group. And that's one of his, obviously, core goals is to help provide and enlist more diversity on the board level. And so I don't know if you've contacted him or not, or if you've had a discussion with him. I just thought I'd make a recommendation.
Ahmad is a wonderful person. He's a friend, a collaborator, and I have to say, a participant in our Santa Clara program. We look forward to doing many things with Ahmad and his organization. Thank you.
There must be more questions. Someone, Carl Salas.
Well, I'll ask, those 800 folks on your list, we would love to have them come to a meeting, anyone who's anywhere near us. This is a great training ground, and we, quite contrary, we have experienced that it's there is a shortage of African Americans that we are associated with. We would embrace anyone. I would sponsor anyone who you could ever suggest. Just stop by any Wednesday. We would all happily embrace them, and they could see this great club.
What I'd like to do is work with Dennis, who you mentioned, and Tom, and Suzanne, and we'll come up with a list.
Okay, let's have that.
The 800 is across the country, and it is East Coast centric, but we have some good names out here.
So Barry, let's begin that though with you being our guest when you're up to it, okay?
Thank you.
You can be my guest or Tom's or anybody else's. Nancy Williams.
Hi, Barry. It's your sister from another mother. Good to see you.
Nancy, this is how I have to get to see you.
Hey, I was just wondering if you have given any thought to recruiting candidates of color to run for office as well. Is that something on your agenda?
I have not. I'm trying to keep things off my table, but if you want to work with me on this, we'll do it. I think that's an important element to this whole issue.
Okay, we have one from the chat.
And I saw Chappie James was there, so maybe we ought to get Chappie on our team.
And we have one from, I think from Suzanne. ALF regularly gets asked to provide diverse candidates to boards, but the boards are not ready. Have you thought about any sort of mentoring training for the boards? Who needs it?
No, that's a very important issue, and we're struggling of how to put something together at Santa Clara, because it's most important once we deliver good minority candidates that companies embrace them and embrace their diversity and everything that they can contribute.
Last question actually is going to be Matt Bell. So we're going to be out of here, everyone, in less than 2 minutes. So Barry, we call this lightning round. Matt's going to ask a quick question and you're going to give a quick answer. Go ahead,
It
Matt.
may not be so quick. So thank you for coming today. I'm wondering, so you spoke a lot about the benefits of diversity on boards, and I think we can all agree what those benefits are. But there's also, especially with Black Lives Matter and currently, it seems in Silicon Valley, a ton of momentum and energy around diversity. To me, it's the hottest topic right now, currently. But what about the issue of tokenism? To be, from a public perception standpoint, we need to be more diverse, or how important is it for a board to really understand and embrace the benefits of diversity?
Well, that's why I said my approach is diversity is not about social purpose. Diversity is a business imperative. And we are talking about more than skilled candidates.
Yeah, I think
We can talk further, but I know he said 1 minute or,
yeah.
but I could go on a lot more on that topic.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Barry, coincidentally, we're making a donation in your name today to the Barry Williams Endowment. What's the chances of that? That was a joke, crowd. Come on, give me some props here. So there's a Barry Williams Endowment at Santa Clara University. Barry, we're going to make a donation as a partial thank you to you. And again, the invitation is there to visit us live anytime you want. Everyone, next week, the speaker is Ryan Scannell, speaking on rhetoric, demagoguery, and democracy. Very timely topic. With that, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks so much, Barry. That was great. So good to see you.
Barry, are you taking questions?
I think he took off, unfortunately. He
Oh,
probably thought it was over.
darn, that's too bad. He was
I know.
really, really valuable, Suzanne. Thank you very much for bringing
Yeah.
it. And
You're
it
welcome.
strikes me, this is to you, but it's to everybody. In Santa Clara County, we are a non-majority county, and we have diversity requirements in a lot of other areas besides Black. Certainly we have regarding the Black population, but the Black population is less than 5% of our county. Asian and Hispanic are also terribly underrepresented in these positions. And it seems to me we ought to be doing this kind of thing for all of the areas. I don't know how you do that without diluting your effort, Suzanne, but you folks are doing it. ALF is.
Yeah. And and I wish he had more time to address, I think, the board work that has to be done before we invite folks. The stuff you and I have talked about, right, Rod?
Well,
that actually there's work that has to, yeah.
And Suzanne,
yeah.
even, I'm one of those board guys. And even though you have it in your heart, you just don't know how to do it right until you're taught.
Good news, and I was going to put it in the chat, that ALF is on the verge of getting funding to put together training modules for boards of directors on how to diversify, how to have these conversations, what steps to take. So we work with 30 nonprofit leaders around these issues for the last 4 years. And I mean, it's clear that the boards need that guidance and help. So I hope by the end of the year, we'll have that.